Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the entire United States. Good morning to the entire world, receiving the signals from the magic of the internet created by whom again? We the people, you the people. We did it, folks. We are the ones who created AI. We are the ones who created everything that you see the billionaires trying to dominate, trying to take over right now. It is we the people. You know, it's amazing how magical it is for folks to convince others that those at the top somehow are more meritorious. Imagine if we just realize the power we individually have to create the collective. That's the only way things get done. Anyway, without further ado, let's move it on to the geniuses in LS Studio. Good morning, studio. How you doing this morning? El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Good morning, Egberto. Howard's out today, doing his thing.
Oh, okay. So it's one person in the studio, El Señor Jacques Van Beba. How you doing, my brother?
I opened it up this morning.
You opened it up this morning in the wee hours of the morning, and now we're waking everybody up to start out with Politics Done Right. How you doing, brother? What's going to be the great word of wisdom that we're going to have today?
Well, it's not good, but it's a word.
All right, let's go for it.
The Democratic Party leadership are failing their constituents if they wait for President Trump to undo any of the damaging policies he has enacted. He has fired federal employees that are essential to running social programs that serve the people. These programs will sputter and fail. And what are the Democratic leaders doing? Waiting and hoping Trump will change? Quit worrying about your position and your pay and what President Trump will do to you in retaliation. Democrats need to be falling on their swords to call out Trump and his cabinet a billionaire fascist.
Yes, they do. And you know what? You gave the message and exactly where we're going to start. So thank you for that, Jack. You nailed it. You nailed it, sir. So let's get busy with that, folks. You know, you guys have heard. By the way, before I get started, let me welcome the folks that are already in the chat. Joanne from Los Angeles, California. We also have Jackie Campisi from Katy, Texas, and Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. So right now in the chat, we have 3 states: Texas, California, and Georgia. Just to bring up, and now we have Andrea Lucky in the. I'm sorry, guys. I just pushed the Substack, so I only have the new people that are coming on to Substack, and who I have right now are Karen, Denny Luna, and Denny Luna is from Seattle, Washington. So now we're up to state number 4, and I know there are quite a few more in there that I hadn't seen because I just requeued it. But anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show. Look, what Jack said is absolutely right. You can't wait for Donald Trump to mess up. Helen's K. Skull, how you doing? And Sofia Moreau, Presidenta de the Houston Peace and Justice Center, is in the house as well. Anyway, folks, we can't sit back and wait for Donald Trump to mess up. After all, he messed up in the first administration, and the prize for that was to sit out for 4 years and get elected again. The rest of the world, you know, Canada, there was a big election in Canada yesterday. Huge. I don't understand. I don't know if people know how important that election really was. Was. It was extremely important. And the Progressive Party, the Liberals, won. But they didn't only win. But anybody who listened to the speech that Mark Carney gave, the Prime Minister of Canada, who is now set to serve a full term, anybody who listen to that ought to feel a sense of loss. Canada, our northern neighbor, I don't know about you, but I remember driving into Vancouver from Seattle and just loving Canada, not having an issue crossing borders. You're in Canada, you felt like you're in a different country, but you also felt like you're in a little America or something like that, right? There was no big difference or whatever. That's a kinship. It was like being at your brother's or sister's home when you got into Canada. That no more. One man, Donald Trump, changed that. But he didn't only change that with what he's doing with tariffs and all the mass stupidity that lacked any intellect in working in international politics. He didn't only do that. He has changed the flow of economics from now and God knows how, because the way the rest of the world sees it, they see that there is now that the special relationship that Canada had with the United States is no more. And they've come to that realization. They come to the realization that with that will come a lot of pain as well. When you have 80% of your exports going to one country, that one country that receives it's a bidirectional thing. That one country needs your exports. But also you're dependent on having a stable relationship with that country, lest you find yourself in economic distress, with the words of a madman, with the words of a what is the word most best describes him? With the words of a moron. And that's where Canada is, and they've realized finally that there's no turning back. So the Canadian Prime Minister said something yesterday, and my heart sank when he said it. He said, our relation with the United States is, as it was before, is no more. And then he says one thing: the United States, as the leader of the worldwide economic system as well, is over. A nation 1/6 or less the size of the United States made that pronouncement yesterday. And then you look around the world and you see that it is true. China, the big bad capitalist country, the big bad other capitalist country in the world, whereas Canada has 80% of its exports or so going to the United States, not China. Yeah, it'll hurt China to play this game, but not as bad as it'll hurt other countries. Because, I think China is only doing 16% or so of its exports to the United States. While we were bombing the rest of the world, while we were bullying the rest of the world, China was being friends with Africa, friends with Indonesia, friends with all these other countries, Asian countries, friends with the Caribbean, friends with, in fact, they built a freeway in Jamaica, friends with South America, friends with Panama. In fact, the United States attempted to invade Panama if China didn't get out of owning two big ports in Panama, in Balboa, and I think one in Colón. So China was building relationships, and they have relationships, and whether their trade, which is huge, continues with the United States or not, there are open markets elsewhere. They're now buying their soybeans from Brazil. They're buying, the rest of the world can also profit from Donald Trump's, our resident moron stupidity, which they are. So yes, there's still the potential, because we control the sovereign currency of the world. But in the process, that strain ultimately makes America weaker. And we did that. Those who voted for the person we know exactly what he was going to do did that. This is one time that there is going to be a huge result from our collective prejudice. It's going to be a huge, whether you are MAGA, who would have never voted for a woman, who would have never voted for somebody like Kamala Harris. What you did is you screwed yourself. And the entire country, and to that matter, the entire world. Because now there's going to be a realignment that has already begun. And this realignment that has already begun is actually going to be painful. And we haven't seen the results yet. Takes 2 months. The transition of containers from China, from Taiwan, from all these places is 2 months. And there are less ships coming into Seattle, New Orleans, the Pacific coast. And that will show up within 2 months. Beginning April 2nd is when all the turmoil started. Be prepared. Cheryl Elkins is in the house from Massachusetts. Welcome aboard, Cheryl. A lot more. I did call you. I'm only calling your name out on the podcast, not podcast, on the Substack. If you go ahead and tell me where you're from for now. Okay. So tell me where you're from and I'll do that. So where am I going? I'm going where Jack brought us. So Democrats. There are two parties in this system, still just two parties in this system. Two parties that can win. No, a lot of people don't like to hear that, but two parties. And one of the problems is that the game that was played by the Democrats beginning with Clinton, a lot of people look at Clinton as this genius who, with all the problems he had, he was able to win. And this is a guy, that came out and won. And I want to remind everybody that doing it Clinton's way, using triangulation, barely got a win. And that win came because, again, we had Ross Perot. Clinton never got the majority of the American population's vote. Let's remember that. Even though, again, I praise Clinton in my book. Clinton got more people working than absolutely any other president, bar none. More than Reagan, more than Obama. Clinton got more. But what Clinton also did was raise a lot of taxes. Okay, let's be clear about that. And there's a reason why that works based on economics 101 principles, etc. They won't tell you that. We allow our mainstream media and Republican politicians and neoliberal Democrats continue to lie to us about these sort of issues. Jacqueline Campisi says money over morals is Trump's way, and she's actually absolutely right. Democrats at this point in time, what did they do? They, for all practical purposes, followed Clinton's triangulation, with some exceptions when Obama ran. When Obama ran, Obama was an idealist. Obama really believed in the people when he ran. Notice I said when he ran. Because when he made that statement, we are who we've been waiting for, he was absolutely right. We are who we have been waiting for. And that applies today, but I'll get there. That applies today again. But he went around the DNC. Remember, OFA, Obama for America, was not the Democratic Party, was not the DNC. It was its own organization because a failed DNC didn't know how to speak to the people. And he did all the right things. He went to colleges. He did similar to what AOC and Brother Bernie Sanders are doing right now. They went to the people. Obama went to the universities. Obama went to the towns. Obama went to places nobody expected Obama to go. He won Iowa, man. He won Indiana. He went to the people. I don't know anybody who is old enough to remember 2008, what that was like. Nobody that looked like Obama and have a name, Barack Hussein Obama, should have won if you looked at standard political theory in the United States. But he superseded that because guess what he did? He went to the people and he made the people understand. It doesn't matter if you like me or not. It doesn't matter about your prejudices or not. I am here for you. That was the type of campaigning he did in 2008, and he won the popular vote by a bunch, especially in these times where polarization was still in existence. Even with the Tea Party, people remembered what he did in 2008, even though by 2012, we knew that he made a pact with the devil. He did not take over the banking sector that was deservedly so for how they crashed the economy. The millions of people that lost their homes, they lost their homes. But the people who caused them to lose their homes were made whole again by the Obama administration. We always protect the rich. We always protect the wealthy, but we never protect you. And you know what? All of that built MAGA, because Donald Trump, one of the plutocrats, one of the rich guys, well, purportedly rich guys, could come out and make these people of low information believe that somehow a billionaire has their interests or a billionaire is just like them. But because the Democrats were so terrible in talking a good game, but not producing Medicare for all, not producing child care in mass, not producing. Look, one of the readers of my Substack sent me a note, and he wrote a message to one of the articles that we wrote, and it was a meme that they placed on Fox News. And, I should have had that ready for you as I'm speaking. But the meme that he put, and the name of the person is Ira Denber. You hear me talk about Ira. Ira comments a lot on our stuff. And I think I found the meme. There's a meme that Fox News put in 2018 on their big screen. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's platform. And I want to read you the bullet points they gave for her platform. They actually believed these were bad things. I want to read this. Medicare for all, housing as a human right, a federal jobs guarantee, gun control, assault weapons ban, criminal justice reform, end private prisons, immigration justice, abolish ICE, solidarity with Puerto Rico, mobilization against climate change, clean campaign finance, higher education for all, women's rights, support LGBTQIA+, support seniors, curb Wall Street gambling, restore Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall is what separates investment banking from banking. Fox News, this is how trastornados estamos. This is how the elite thinks that the poor, the middle class, and others are stupid. That platform, if you do a poll on the American people, including MAGA, that is a platform all support. The only suspect on that platform are two social issues, guns and LGBTQ. Every other issue on that platform, everybody supports. And they put that up on Fox News to mock Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Why would they do that? It's a form of indoctrinative programming. even though you want those things, you put it out as a mockery, and suddenly people sort of back off of it, even as they want it. And instead of Democrats jumping on that bandwagon and saying, yes, we are for all of that, which would have won them 60% of the country. 60% of the country minimum. They went ahead and let it go. And you know what? Glenn Ryan is giving me kudos in the chat. He doesn't realize the statement he's making is a good kudos. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. So I want folks to understand this. Right now, the article that I want to touch on is by a friend, Norman Solomon. Great reporter, great journalist. Look him up he wrote an article. I interviewed him about 3 or 4 times, and I'm going to bring him on for this article that he wrote called "Establishment Democrats Are Blowing the Fight Against a Fascist Trump." And there's one place that I highlighted. It's a very long article, so I'm not going to read it here because I got to get to the phones as well. But he says, but there's little evidence that the party leadership wants significant change beyond putting themselves back in power. Midway through April, the homepage of the Democratic Party seemed like a snapshot of an institution still disconnected from the angst and anger of the electorate. A pop-up that instantly obscured all else on the screen featured a drawing of a snarling Donald Trump next to the headline, "We are suing Trump over 2 illegal executive orders." Underneath, the featured message proclaimed, "We are rolling up our sleeves and organizing for a brighter, more equal future. Together, we will elect Democrats up and down the ballot." A schedule of town halls in dozens of regions was nice enough, but a true sense of urgency, let alone emergency, was notably lacking. Yeah. This is what is it? DEFCON 1. The rest of the world understands this is DEFCON 1. Many Americans understand DEFCON 1. But the DNC, the Democratic Party, doesn't seem to understand it. You can look at Chuck Schumer, the piece that I played for you yesterday, showed that he is clueless or willfully ignorant to what is happening in America, to what is happening to the working class. And the minority leader in the House, Jeffries, is just as bad. New leadership necessary. When Ocasio-Cortez tried to take over the Ways and Means Committee, they voted her out, and not voted her out. They voted instead an old man in, an old man that knew. Look, I feel for anybody who's sick. Blessed be unto thee. I want you to get better. But this guy knew he was sick. A 70-odd-year-old person. Nothing wrong with 70-odd-year-olds. But it is time for bringing up younger folks, new generation. The Democratic Party supported this older guy as opposed to Ocasio-Cortez, who everybody would tell you when she goes into a committee meeting, she is the most well-prepared person and she is the most intelligent on any topic that is going to be covered in that committee meeting. A woman, a young woman that does her homework because she understands that she will be judged as a woman by a much different standard. And she goes in there prepared and make mincemeat out of those guys in every single one of those committee meetings. It is time, folks, what Obama said, not what he did in his latter years, but what he said. We are who we've been waiting for. Those organic protests that you see going on right now, they're not put on by the Democratic Party. They're put on by 50151. They're put on by Indivisible. They're put on by a bunch of other organizations. And that is where the difference is going to be made. You are the ones who are going to have to go to primaries, not waiting for the general election in November. You have to pick the right people in the primaries. You have to pick the people who are going to buck the system. You have to pick the people who believe in people, not corporations. You've got to pick the people who are doing the right thing or will do the right thing and have not been corrupted by those who corrupted Clinton, those who corrupted Obama, those who Trump was born into corruption. You are the ones you've been waiting for. All right, let's start with the phones. Let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
You left out John Fetterman.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin and his crew cut. So, in spite of how either our friends on the other side of the aisle, either Breitbart or Brian might challenge this, I'm going to go ahead and say good Tuesday morning to you with no other qualification. How about that?
Good morning, my brother.
Yeah, and good Tuesday morning to you, Brian, and Mr. Breitbart. So I was feeling kind of down this morning listening to the previous program, Arnie Arneson. She was playing that halftime bumper music, one of the Beatles, George Harrison, all those years ago. I think it was about John Lennon. And then she started talking about her experience. She's relayed the story several times already, so it's not new. I knew where she was going. She brought up the fact that she was getting ready to teach a class at Harvard. You know, that Ivy League.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of the class that she wanted was a quote from Bella Abzug, you have to lose before you win. And they refused her naming her course that because they told her, according to her, that we don't have losers here at Harvard. And then that made me think about an experience I had in the 5th grade, I think it was, prior to our confirmation, because as you probably remember, I went to a Catholic grade school. Mm-hmm. And it's like 5th grade or 6th grade, you go through confirmation. In other words, you're old enough, supposedly, to confirm that you agree with the apostolic teachings of the church, and you follow Jesus Christ and all that, right? So the lead father of the parish, he came into our classroom with his big white dog and his aromatic pipe, which smelled pretty good. Maybe you want to take up smoking pipes. But anyway, he came into the classroom and he was telling, I don't remember exactly what he said, but that kind of inflated our egos, I think. He brought up the fact that there's a public school down the road that kids are going to, and that we're not, and that we should consider ourselves lucky and privileged to go to this school, this private elementary school, this Catholic school. But it was maybe a few days later, and it occurred to me, I was thinking, wait a minute. I know some people who go to public schools. Not all my family goes to a religious school like me. So I'm better than them. And I thought about these two different things. So here's my question. I don't know if anybody else in the audience has this experience who went to public school. Did any of you guys who went to public grade school in New York in the 60s or the 70s have had an experience with a teacher or a principal speaking to you guys on an occasion that was special where they would make you feel elitist in some way? I'm curious about that. So I just thought
that's an interesting question, but just by how people behave, I think that the answer to that is likely if you go to certain schools, they would make you look. There's something called school pride, right? But that is different from telling you that because you're in this school, you're superior to somebody else. I have a feeling I don't know about grade school, etc., but I have a feeling that in the college arena, that's the case with a lot of our elitist universities. I mean, the fact that Arne said, I didn't hear that story from Arne before, talk about the way they didn't allow her to give a title that you lose till you win. first of all, it's silly that they wouldn't allow a title like that. But secondly, it is more truth than not that, if the people that I want to be around are people who've lost a lot and then succeeded, because I know that whenever the pendulum swings, if they're in trouble, they'll know how to recover. There are certain truths out there that should be taught, right? I've failed more than I've succeeded. And I would hope most people have failed more than they have succeeded, because when you succeed, you generally stay on that path for a long time. When you fail, you keep on moving on. You fail, you move on. You fail, you move on. You've attained success, and then you stay there a while till that success fades, and then you fail. I mean, look, failure is a good thing. Anyway, what else, my brother?
Well, just to dovetail what you just said and this concern I have, I used to not feel so ambiguous about the Ivy League colleges and universities until her story, when I first heard it a year or two ago. It started me thinking maybe we should be more, I'm not saying suspicious, but I'm thinking we should share these kinds of stories more with each other. That way, when your kids go onto these Ivy Leagues, if they decide to attend that and they get accepted, that they come armed with that knowledge and they put a check on people who make decisions like that at these Ivy Leagues, because I'm not as charitable towards Ivy Leagues now as I was once. I used to think that there's a time and place for everything, and that they have their place in the academe profession along with public schools, but I'm less charitable towards them now.
Let me just, I want to interrupt you for a reason, Johnny, because I'm sorry to hear that, because that is the intent of Donald Trump and these guys, right? Look, I have a lot of friends that are elitists, a lot of friends that are cocky, all that kind of stuff, but they're friends nonetheless. It's just a character trait. Harvard has it. Harvard's elitism doesn't take away from the good work that they do in research and otherwise. And the same applies for a public school like I went to, the University of Texas, and its research. Everything has a character, and there's not going to be a monolithic character trait. I think what Donald Trump is trying to do is to put you in, to have you sign something that you've just said, right? And that is because if he can get you to start hating the Ivy League, eventually he can start getting you to hate the better Texas schools, let's say the University of Texas and the A&Ms, and then after you hate those, you can then hate the Texas Southerns and the Texas TSOs and the other ones. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I hate everybody.
No, but what I'm saying is this, right? What I'm saying is the following. Every school, whatever, has its character, and again, I think this is a time where we have to come together. With what got me with the story that you told about the naming, however, is the issue of not being able to say you fail. That's a silly way of saying you can't not name that because we don't fail here. I'm sorry. Even Harvard fails. But Johnny, I got to go to the other calls. Anything else you want to say real quick?
Real quickly, I just want to say that that story informs us that you can't eliminate conservatives and ultra-right wingers from life. They're everywhere.
Exactly.
As we can. And you find them especially. They will locate to Ivy Leagues more than my community college. Well, maybe not. Maybe
I don't know the numbers about that. I honestly don't know the numbers on that. But I love what you just said, which is important. You're going to always have conservatives. You're going to always have all these other people, and you have to coexist. And that's just how it is. And that's what I am trying as well: coexistence. Not only coexistence, but also, to some extent, conversion where possible. But thank you, Johnny. Let's go to Brother Tag. Come on in, Tag.
Morning, Egberto. You've talked about Democrats quite a bit today, right?
Yes, sir.
I see a pretty stark difference between Democrats and Republicans, especially the current Republicans. Seems like they want to get power and then tear everything down to the foundation and then pretend that they're going to start rebuilding things. And it's a very long road to hoe if you're going to tear everything down to nothing again. And I just don't see that as being practical. I think the Democrats are more likely to want to maybe tinker around the edges a little bit and build on what has been successful in the past. And that's kind of why I believe in the Democratic Party, because, we're going to work with what's.
May I interrupt you? May I interrupt you? I don't want you to get the wrong message. Okay. I'm not a party. I'm not a party person. I am a part of the Democratic Party because that's the only place progressives can really caucus and matter for that sake. But when I'm a host, I'm just speaking straight. Now, here's what I want to say. I am not saying these things to disparage the Democratic Party at all, because the Democratic Party is comprised of several factions. There's a neoliberal faction, there's a fearless centrist faction, and then there is the progressive faction. The neoliberal faction is an entire, complete failure, and it has been the part of the party that has caused the most consternation. And let me give this as an example. Since Reagan, we've had Clinton, we've had Obama, and we've had Biden. That is 20 years, I believe, if I add all those numbers up correct, 20 years of potential change. All right. We never, and we can use all the reasons, filibuster, all these other things. But every failure that we've had, I'm talking about, I should say every failure that the Democratic Party has had has not been a failure induced by Republicans. It has been a failure induced by neoliberal Democrats. When we had the health care, the Obamacare that was being placed, and I was deep in that fight. In fact, I wrote my first book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Book. A big part of the book covered the Obamacare debate. I once used to say, if there's no public option, we are not voting for it. If there isn't, and we kept on lowering the bar. Till the Democrats from, I don't remember what state, Connecticut, he recently died, or he died a few years ago, blocked all the good things that would have made Obamacare a better Obamacare. Because I remember writing at Daily Kos where I said, wow, if we get this will eventually morph into Medicare for all. And you know who doesn't want that? Neoliberal Democrats, and they stopped it. The same appear for minimum wage. All these other options that Democrats had to pass when they were in full and total power, they allowed neoliberals not to get it done. If you take a look at income inequality, wealth disparity, it's a constant line. It didn't matter if you had Republicans in power or Democrats in power. If you look at the charts, it didn't matter what party was in power. The middle class and the working class continue to lose ground. If you want to know, and we then make fun of progressive Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or all the others that are really seeking to support policies for the American people. And I should say we, am a host right now, Democrats put themselves into this position, and the poll numbers that point out that where they are is the reason for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Republicans. The Republican Party leadership is evil. You just described it perfectly. When you stated that they just tear down because they want to put their boot on your neck. They have no good will for you. But again, the Democratic Party, as Brother Solomon has to say in this article that I'm recommending, has to now take the bull by the horns. And we, the people, you are who you have been waiting for. Continue, my brother.
Yeah, it just made me think about how Biden, worked for 4 years. He was surgical about the changes he made. He wasn't there to tear things down. He made improvements but he did it in increments, small increments. And so many people would say Biden didn't do anything. Well, Biden did an awful lot, but it wasn't flashy. He didn't tear anything right down to the roots again and start over. And I think that's why the Democrats are successful quite often, because they aren't going to put their boot on your neck and start over from square one. So that was kind of my thought from listening to you this morning, that we don't need a president who's going to tear everything down to the ground and start over. You don't go out and buy a new car and then turn around and put new wheels and put a new motor in it and you just don't do that. You buy a new car because you like the car, not because you want to rebuild the damn thing when you get it home. So
right.
I think it's very important that we acknowledge that we do have a good government, and it just needs some surgical changes, not a complete overhaul. So
let me disagree with you with one thing. Hold on, Tag. I don't want you to go yet. I want to ask you to ponder one thing, because I think I'm in disagreement with one thing. Incremental change and surgical change at one time, I think, is what we needed. But let me ask you this. You're retired right now?
Yeah.
And you're safe. You're retired. You're probably on Social Security and pension and other types of things, right? But let me tell you. Yeah, I got it. But let me just say this. There are people who can't even live. And I'm talking about a lot of people now. A lot of people right now that can't even live within their means. And this is based on policy, based on not having a living wage, based on healthcare that they can't afford, based on food prices there is so much right now that is different from, let's say, for you, than those people that are really suffering right now. And I think one of the things that I speak about a lot is we suffer in silence, right? If you take a look at your neighbors, there's a percentage of your neighbors that are in dire straits, but you don't know. And it's in dire straits because of something that's fiscal, something that government should have done something about. And I'm talking about every government, and we don't. And so whereas incremental changes could have been possible, ask the person who is starving for incremental change, ask the person who needs a job for incremental change. And I think we get into trouble at that point. But thank you, Tag, for always having an intelligent comment, my brother.
Yeah, have a good day, Egberto.
All right, let's go to Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Before I get started, I'm going to have some Canadian bacon this morning to go with my that and Wisconsin cheese. I have a new conspiracy theory, and it must be true because I just made it up. Alaska is separated from the continental United States. So Canada can argue that Alaskans are just dying to be a new province of Canada. I mean, after all, Canada knows more about logging in the wilderness, dealing with bad weather. If you ran a pipeline down to refineries in Canada, it's a lot shorter than coming down to Houston. And Canada doesn't have a government staffed by sycophantic pendejos. And I'm done.
Bruce, let me just say one thing. My nephew just made it into Alaska this morning. He was driving from Dallas all the way through the Rockies. They were stopping and having fun. They got into Seattle. They drove into Canada, and he sent a text saying, "We're about to enter Alaska." And yes, he had to go through Canada to get to Alaska. That's interesting. Thank you, brother. You have a great day, Bruce.
That's
all right.
A beautiful drive, by the way.
Oh, I haven't done it, but one of these days I'd love to do it. Take care, brother. Let's go to John. Come on in, John.
Hello. I wasn't expecting you to answer so soon. Yes, I think you're absolutely right that the Democratic Party has just, blown it as far as, going for the neoliberal people who live out in the suburbs, the people who, they're really fairly well off, the middle, instead of the working class and the people that are really hurting. And I think that's why 10 million people don't vote, because what do they see in it for themselves? And I've always felt this way. And I was brought up a New Deal Democrat. I'm 69, and I grew up in New York. And I can tell you the Democratic Party in New York has gone off the rails. And Jamal Bowman would have been reelected, but they actually, gerrymandered their own party out so that, people like Ocasio-Cortez and Jamal Bowman, that they would be in danger of losing their seat, and he lost his seat. And my own Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, they work, just all the time to get rid of her. It's amazing. I mean, the woman is brilliant. She's a good legislator. She puts so many bills in. And yet we get all kinds of attacks from our own party.
I mean, you nailed it. Let me just tell you, Ilhan Omar, Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and another woman out there in Massachusetts, I can't remember. The good thing about it is these women, I'm sorry for what happened for Bowman. Bowman got a hit by what AIPAC did to him, but these women, they work the neighborhood. They go home and they work the neighborhood. They sit with the people. So the Democratic Party can try to gerrymander them out, etc. But they always come through. So, I mean, I think Bowman needed to pick up. I mean, I love Bowman. OK, I think Bowman needed to pick up a few things from how Ilhan Omar, did her stuff in Minnesota to hold on to his district, even though it would have been difficult, But yes. Anything else, my brother?
I mean, can you imagine the Democratic Party in his own party in the state of New York? And that's where I grew up. And I can tell you, it's not at all like the Democratic Party in the 1960s and the 1970s. And, neoliberalism and the brainwashing and propagandizing has created this populist movement on the right.
Exactly.
Donald Trump, I knew exactly what Donald Trump was all about. He hung out with the mafia, he had people, the most corrupt people. He was involved with Fred Trump, the same. His father was a racist. Woody Guthrie wrote a song about it. It's
John, I'm running out of time, John, but let me just say this. You're absolutely correct.
I love you.
I appreciate it, brother, but I got to go to a lot of. I still have a lot of folks on the line, but here's this: keep calling and keep listening and sharing, brother. Thank you so kindly. Let's go to Donald. Come on in, Donald.
Hey, good morning, Egberto. Here's an idea for you. You need to make yourself a puppet that looks like you, so you can talk to it and it can answer the truth of what you want to say. Then we can blame the puppet. Because, see, me and Johnny have a lot in common. I'm also Oscar the Grouch. But you know what Oscar has and the other ones don't? He has his own house with a roof, and he can shut the world out. And the other on there are politicians. And that's all I got to say, man. Take it easy.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. Really, really do. Thank you. Let's go to, and by the way, Donald is my favorite MAGA, okay? Let's go to Brother Bill. Come on in, Bill.
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, sir.
Okay. Back in the 80s, I remember seeing Reagan differentiating between the two budgets of Social Security, Medicare, and the general Treasury budget. He said one cannot be affected by the other. The Medicare Social Security budget is protected. How is it that in the news we are feeling threatened by Trump tampering with our Social Security? Is that even possible?
Let me explain a few things, okay? Both of these entitlements are different. The Social Security is paid by that 12 point something percent. So supposedly it is safe. And likewise, Medicare is paid for with the Medicare tax. These are isolated parts of that you pay for. And technically speaking, you should not be able to cut them, right? Because they are entitlements that you pay for. Now, there's some magical things that they're doing. Things like making it more difficult for you to reach your Social Security office. Things like not being able to reach them on the telephone. Things like make all these difficulties make it possible for less people to get the support that they need. Now, in order to actually change how Social Security money is allocated at this point in time would require what's called cloture in the Senate, which they would never get. So in theory, you can't change you can't cut Social Security in a standard manner. You can cut Social Security through executive services, making customer service more difficult, making access to getting your Social Security check more difficult, which buys time. Time means more people die, more people die without. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to do it. When it comes to Medicare, however, yes, a lot of things need cloture, but there are also certain things that neoliberals and Republicans alike like, something called Medicare Advantage. And morphing traditional Medicare into Medicare Advantage is a form of cutting Social Security by giving these defined ways of payments to these private companies. So when we talk about being able to cut, we talk about it in the aggregate. There are many ways to skin a cat, and that is exactly how the Trump administration and to some extent some neoliberal liberals would want to do it. Anything else, my brother, real quick?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one. All right, let's go to Moses. Come on in, Moses. I only have about a minute for you, Moses.
Okay, let me say this. You have accurately defined the insidious tactics of the deceiver. What he does, he spews venom on his prey before he swallows him up, and that's what the Trump administration is doing. With the thing of colleges and, one college is greater than the other and all this stupid foolishness, we must understand knowledge is the same everywhere. And at all times, science, math, reading, writing are all the same, no matter what building it is taught in.
Very good point.
We know well of all the great men and women that have come out of lowly public schools and colleges. And so when somebody comes and says, well, you came from Harvard, you came from this. I've seen people from Harvard. If you were to drop them in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, they would not know how to get back to land. And I've seen people, students who are fishermen, never continued. They went to elementary, high school, and all that. That's all their education was. And you drop them in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and they know exactly how to figure out the waves and the wind and the tides and bring themselves back safely. Yet put a Harvard student in there, or Harvard whatever, he would not even be able to figure what to do. He would drown in the middle of the water. So it is not the building. Language, English, math, science, social studies, whatever, they are the same everywhere.
Thank you very much, Moses. You're absolutely correct. Have a wonderful day. I tell you what, I never forgot, I worked at NASA, and one of my I shouldn't say a bench partner, but the cubicle next to me was a guy from Harvard, engineering as well. And coming from the University of Texas, a public school, good one, but a public school, I remember the first time, he's from Harvard, and the mystique that everybody had that, I was sitting next to the guy from Harvard. And the funny thing about it was every single, in this case, I'm not saying in all cases, but every single public school person was a much better engineer than this engineer from Harvard. All right. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian. You got a minute.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Now, education through brainwashing. That's what you're trying to do. Explain to me oligarchy. What does that mean?
Oligarchy is when your government is being controlled by the corporations, and all the goods and best from the government is first from the state, in first context from the corporations. No doubt about that is what's happening today. That's not brainwashing. That's a statement of verifiable fact.
Okay. Do you wish to give the Webster's definition of oligarchy?
I just gave you I just gave you the definition of oligarchy as it is implemented right now in the United States. It does have to do with government, but go on. All right, make your point because you only got 30 seconds. Are you done?
Okay. How about chaos? That's all the talking points from all the news stations do. They pick a word and they dwell on it each and every day for weeks and weeks. Okay. Neoliberalism. What is that? Give me a definition of that.
All right. Anything else that you want to ask my brother? Because I got to go.
No, just give me the definition of oligarchy and find out if it has anything to do with government social programs. Thanks.
I just gave you the definition, sir. Anyway, let me pass it on to the studio to see if Brother Jack has anything to add. Okay, Jack, are you there? All right, Jack may be handling the phones right now. Let me go ahead and tell you guys that I want to thank you for listening in to the program. I want to thank you for being here. We couldn't do this without you. I want to salute Billy Allison Irwin in the chat from Houston. We have Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, New York. We also have several others in the chat that I can't get to right now because the music is on. Folks, you can continue finishing the program at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can write to me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. Love you all. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done